Good afternoon, everybody in this room and following us online for this S&D press conference on a, I would say, very good day here in Strasbourg, important day. And it's my pleasure to hand over to our group president, Iratxe García Perez, followed by our vice president, Mohamed Shahim, for the Green Deal, and who will speak on the successful vote on the nature restoration law that happened here today. Iratxe.
Thank you, and I will do it in Spanish. Maybe some of you will need a translation.
Today is a very important day. It's a very important day for this Parliament, for our political group, and above all, for
diejenigen, die hofften, dass wir ein eindeutiges Signal abgeben würden im Namen des Europäischen Parlaments und aller Aktivisten, um eben unserem Planeten Erde eine Chance zu geben, damit wir jetzt wirklich wirksam gegen den Klimawandel vorgehen können. Und insofern können wir uns heute freuen. Ich möchte mich beim Berichterstatter César Luena bedanken für die Arbeit an diesem Entwurf. Er hat sich wirklich bemüht, mit anderen Fraktionen gemeinsame Standpunkte.
Meetings with lots of other groups. There have been difficulties as well. But what I should like to do is to thank every single one of the members of Parliament who have given this law a chance. I should like to thank them all, and I should like to thank all political groups who have supported the nature restoration law. It's a victory for this chamber. A stance has been taken on this crucial topic, and the Social and Democratic Group have been leaders in this with our rapporteur, with our vice president. Everybody has worked so hard. It's also a victory for consensus. It's a victory for politics which builds, which doesn't destroy. It's a victory for ideas to bear fruit and not to disappear. It's a defeat for Mr. Weber, who wanted to destroy the nature restoration law. It's a win for us. And the battle that they fought was a total mistake, because they weren't just talking about content. What they were trying to do was to demonstrate a clear struggle, a clear ideological battle of the extreme right, and to leave behind the pro-European alliances, which have been an absolute feature of this institution so far. So I think this is the time for the EPP to withdraw a little, to think this through, to think it was useful for the European project, and if so, how? And to think of what they have done, voting together with the extreme right, because this is what they did. This is what they did. They worked together with the extreme right. They gave them their votes. But we have had an opportunity to get this through now, this nature restoration law, and we are now at a juncture where we can negotiate with Council, we can be constructive, we can work on this, and we can, at long last, go back to these pro-European alliances and not be alongside those who want to destroy the courageous European project. And this is not the only thing. We could talk about lots of other things, gender equality, support for LGBTIQ, etc., because what they're doing is moving onto dangerous ground, and it's dangerous ground for Europe. But we, at least as Social Democrats, have responded, and once again we are going to hold out our hand to the EPP so that they can come back and be part of the majority in the European Parliament and work together with us and not play the game that they've been playing. What we don't accept is lies and disinformation. We are saying no to climate deniers. What we have said is yes to science, yes to the young people who have been coming out onto the streets, demonstrating for our future. Yes, we're saying to farmers so that they can have a future healthy agricultural sector. We've seen 30% of cereals production going down, for example, because of drought. So what we're looking at now in the context of climate change is not a threat for the future. It's more than that. More than that. We're looking at the destruction of our future, and we want to make sure that we have sustainable agriculture for our future. We have a type of agriculture that we can support, that we can go along with, that we can help, and we're going to continue to be constructive. And we are quite ready to sit down at the table with the EPP. And if this is not going to happen, we shall work together with those who form the majority in the Parliament to make this law a reality. Thank you so much.
Please.
Thank you very much. What can I say? I'm very proud standing here. I'm very proud of César, who really worked hard to find a compromise based on content. I'm very proud of all S&D members that really were united and looked at the content to see if we could get united, and at the end, César got us there. I'm very proud of Renew members that supported, although there were some division in their group. I'm very proud of the Greens and the left that supported this legislation from the beginning. And I'm very proud of the EPP members that went against their leadership, that never 1 second looked at the substance of this file. Those are the people that today helped us get a majority. And I told them last week, like, you can try to block things in the committee, but at the end, the Parliament will speak, and there is a majority for this legislation. Today, I'm very happy that we set the fundament for this legislation as Social Democrats together with the other political groups. And why? Because simple. Restoring nature is good for farming. Restoring nature is good for bees and all kinds of animal lives. Restoring nature is good for our children. It's good for life itself. That's what we are fighting for today. And the cynical politics coming from the EPP, and it's not the first time that they've tried. And again, they lose. But we are very nice people, Social Democrats, in essence. For us, it's very simple. If Weber or any other member of the EPP comes to us to speak about the substance of any file, they're more than welcome. Because at the end of the day, if we get together and stay together until we find a compromise, we put Europe forward towards a better place. But fighting only to get things off the table, fighting for destruction, at the end, even if they would have succeeded, nobody wins. Nobody wins. And this is my message to every EPP member. If you want to talk about any file, you know who are the partners that you can talk to and at the end could help you for a majority. But if you lean towards the extreme right, if you lean towards climate skepticists, if you lean towards parties that only represent the big agri, because we're not talking about farmers. I'm from a farming region. I love small and medium-sized family farms, and I think we have to improve our model in order to make them have a future within the EU. But their biggest threat is not César Luena, who did the nature restoration law. It's the opposite. He's working to make sure that they have a future in the EU. Their threat is called biodiversity crisis. Their threat is called industrialization of the farming industry. In any case, today we won, but we put our hand forward towards the EPP. We have still roughly a year to go. There are many important files that we need to discuss that we can finish within this term. Get back at the table. Talk with us. Try to find a result, because an alternative is only fighting each other, and at the end, they know they can't have a majority, and we know that if they do not come at the table, we will do our best to find a progressive majority without them. Next time, come back at the table, let's discuss content, because at the end of the day, we are parties that have a history within the EU, and we want to put the EU in a better world, in a better place. And today, I think we are managing that. Thank you, Cesar.
Thank you also, Cesar and Mohammed and Iratxe. And now it's time for your questions. Please introduce yourselves and medium.
Good afternoon, Pietro Guastamacchi, ANSA News Agency. Question for the both of you, even though Mr. Chaim already partially answered. Today you won, but the margin is narrow. What does this tell us for all the next negotiation? Metsola a few days ago said there are more than 100 texts left to be done before the end of legislation. So what are we walking into? Is it going to be a tight negotiation every time? It's
We hope that the EPP is going to come back to shoulder its responsibility, to come back to the collaboration which we have been used to in the past. We are hoping that we will be able to have reasonable and responsible negotiations. The nature restoration law was not a problem of content for the EPP. They voted on other issues linked to the climate, and they've negotiated with the Social Democrats and others. It wasn't a problem of content. It was an EPP political strategy, and that is why I am hoping that they're going to drop this sort of politics and come up with a proper electoral strategy. We've got a year to go. We're all going to campaign, but this is not the time for it at the moment. The time is right now to give an opportunity to proper policies, a time for collaboration and consensus, a time for rationality. Of course, we've got a lot of other things we've got to negotiate on: the electoral market, gender. There are fundamental policies which we are going to have to make progress on this year. And I think that it's now time for the EPP to mull this over and think really whether it is appropriate to carry out certain strategies for its electoral gain.
Say that the last months we really were talking to members individually to see where their heart was. I can tell you that if people would have voted in good conscience, I think there would have been a bigger majority today in the House. Many big delegations also within the EPP were really put under pressure not to support the legislation. Again, if you want to take this very important topic, and there are many other topics still to come, and you want to make it a cynical game, not looking at content, then the next year will be difficult, definitely. But if they want to go back to the table to look at substance, we are there to negotiate with them. And I have a lot of respect for many EPP members that really also looked at the content of Cesar, wrote amendments, tried to support the file and improve it from their position. I hope we get those EPP members again back at the table and convince their leadership that this way is not a way forward. And again, we don't hold any grudge. They're welcome to get back at the table. We have too many important files to discuss, and we prefer next time to have a good compromise without the tensions that were created for a political game, which is something we are not supporting. Substance above cynical politics, substance above election mode. Don't throw away the next year that we still have before the elections, before the new parliament is installed.
Yes, please, thank you.
Thanks. I'm Francesca De Benedetti from the Italian daily Domani. As a matter of fact, the final text, well, we can't say it is a progressive one, of course. Well, Weber lost the vote about the rejection, but at the end we can see that the European Parliament had to discuss about the council version and so on. So my question is about your political strategy for the European elections, because I still listen to you saying that you hope that Weber changes its plans, but in the meanwhile, Weber is deciding the topic, deciding to attack the climate. And in the meanwhile, I listen to you as leaders of the Progressive Front saying that we still wait for Weber changing his plans. What are your plans? Why can't you try to promote this Progressive Front in the meanwhile? Thanks.
Es que yo lo he dicho en varias ocasiones.
I've said it several times. You may have heard me. We stay where we were at the start of this parliamentary term. We've come to build, to work, to find solutions. We're aware that we're the second biggest political force here, meaning that we have a lot of strength, but that we can't do it alone. So if you can't do something alone, you need to negotiate with whoever we can get a majority with. Obviously, we prefer a progressive majority. I do. But if that progressive majority doesn't come up with the numbers at times, then obviously I'm not going to join the extreme right. That's one thing. So I'll negotiate with whoever I have to make policy to change the lives of Europeans. There's just one red line, which is the extreme right. And the EPP's moved on their position in recent years because we started off with a cordon sanitaire at the start of this parliament, and the EPP have dropped it. So it's not an issue of when we're going to reach out our hand. Our position has not changed. Other people's have. We'll carry on negotiating with anyone who wants to build and change the lives for the better of European citizens. That one condition, not with the extreme right.
Can I say something quickly? I mean, we have our own strategy. We are working already on new plans, new ideas. I mean, we're social democrats. We never stand still, and we never are pleased about how the world looks. We always think that the world can be a bit better, because this is why we are social democrats. We do this for our children and our children's children. That's why we are part of this movement, with a lot of international solidarity. That's why we're fighting for climate and fighting for justice. But what I want to say is, EPP is not Weber. Huh? He's just a single person in that group. And his strategy, his destructive strategy, is leading to loss after loss after loss after loss. The question is not whether we are nice people. We're open to everyone in this house to talk about the substance. The question is, do they want to sit back at the table and do a good deal that's good for urban regions, for farmers, for nature, for biodiversity? Because at the end of the day, if you look at what was on the table today, I think deep down in the hearts of many EPP members, they would want to support it. And at the end of the day, destructive politics, if it leads to loss after loss after loss, you have to question your strategy. You have to question whether polarization and cynical politics is what we need for Europe. I don't believe that puts us, any of us, in a winning situation. And this is what we want to say. So the question is not whether we approach EPP. The question is, we are here. We are sitting at the table. Do they want to come back, or will they stay under the leadership that takes positions only to polarize this house, which leads only to destruction, and at the end of the day does not create a majority for them, which is, I think, a strategy that I, as a group member of S&D, would not support.
Thank you. Are there further questions? Yes, please.
Elias Paglialex from Greece, Athens News Agency. Are you afraid that the coming elections in Spain might affect in a negative way the negotiations in the context of the Spanish presidency?
Yo estoy convencida de que
I fully believe that from the 23rd of July, Spain will carry on with a progressive government that wants to fight climate change and that will be a major ally of this nature restoration law. I have no doubt that's how it'll be. So we have a lot of work to do from September on the negotiations.
Then I would like to thank our speakers, Iratxe and Mohamed, and thank you for having been with us. Merci.